Hello, fellow Gambians. I just said I would just come on real quick and to talk to you about something that I see is creeping in our country, and we must be overly concerned by it. Today was not supposed to be a day to talk about this because of the passing of Sadauda Jawara. But I understand too those who think that this is politics. But hey, Sadauda was a politician, and in celebrating Sadauda's legacy, one must be ready to talk about fundamental rights and freedoms. Because if there was anything about Jawara, I was opposed to him for a very long time. But one thing that you cannot take away from him was his respect for fundamental rights and freedoms. What I see today, especially in regards to these trumped-up charges against young Gambians, raises some fundamental issues and concerns that must be, that all of us should be concerned about. What I find sad was the level of hypocrisy of the Barrow government. Yes, today we had the speeches from officials of this government praising Sadauda for being somebody who was very tolerant. But this same government, which speaks from both sides of his mouth, would always talk about democracy in a lip service way, but would do anything to suppress it. One thing that I want Gambians to be mindful of, I heard the president yesterday, or I saw a video today of the president, I don't know when it was, talking about his biggest legacy, him. Moine Gambians have the right to speak. That is not a right that was given to us by Adama Barrow. That is a right that we fought for 22 years. A right that led to the death of many, the incarceration of many, the exile of many, the rape of our women. So it was not one that was given to us by Adama Barrow or any other politician. It was a right that was collectively fought by Gambians and earned respectfully. Here is the thing though. If Barrow is given the opportunity, he would try to abrogate every right there is. Because Barrow and his government, their preoccupation is nothing but how to continue to sustain themselves in power. And this has resulted to a tremendous amount of paranoia. We have seen the gradual attempts to stop people from exercising a fundamental human and constitutional rights to freedom of assembly. And we have seen their continued attempt to in fact try to make it sound as if the right to freedom of expression is a dangerous one. The Barrow government is a disgrace. It is one that has failed the Gambian people. Because when we fought, what we were fighting for is not what we are getting from this government. But here is a government that would lie to the Gambian people about fundamental rights and freedoms, but would try at all cost to suppress those rights. Sometimes they would use legal means. And unfortunately for us, the relics of Jammeh's judiciary still pertains in that country. This is why anybody who goes before a judge or a magistrate in that country, for the most part, would be remanded based on what the state wants it to do. Isn't it ironic that young Gambian men are being remanded in jail today on trumped-up charges? Why? Is it because the government is afraid of these kids, that they would do something bad, or that they would run away from the country? Why have they been remanded? into custody. But the same government found it extremely convenient to release confessed murderers who've killed, in some cases, over 40 Gambians. And they said in the interest of justice or getting to the truth. There is no greater truth than the truth of respecting the fundamental human and constitutional rights of Gambians. Anything less will be hypocritical. And that's what we are getting from this government. I've had it with their shenanigans. And their attempt, deliberate attempt, to paint everybody who has a view or a voice that is contrary to the government as an enemy of the state. Barrow does not love the Gambia any more than we do. In fact, there is a great chance we love it more than him. Because we've loved it so much that we will never destroy that country. And by the way that Barrow is governing that country, we are at the path of destruction. Because he is a man who feels that the best way to making the Gambians realize the freedom that they have yearned for 22 years is to recycle the same people who denied us that freedom. Why do you think Barrow found it so convenient to appoint a Yankuba Sonko as Interior Minister? You think he was looking for qualifications? You think he was looking for patriotism? No, he was not. He was looking for somebody who is loyal enough to do his bidding. Because he looked at this guy and realized that he has a PhD, if you want to call it that, in suppressing people's rights to freedom of assembly and association. Because under his watch, as the IGP, we've seen what had happened to Gambians who were out to peacefully exercise a democratic right. Why do you think Barrow had turned to Omar Faye and made him the Minister of Defense? You think he was looking for qualification or patriotism? No, he was not. He was looking for somebody who would be loyal to him, not to the state. Somebody who would do his bidding. Somebody who would do anything that would help Barrow continue to self-perpetuate himself in power. This is why this guy, President Adama Barrow, has decided to turn to the Mamburenjais, the people who had run ragged our financial institutions, to the Tangaras of the world, to the Sidinjais, the people who were at the brink of having our country in bloodshed. A government that does not respect the rights of its citizens cannot be respected. And respecting Adama Barrow will only happen if he so deserves it. We will not just sit and say, oh, because he is the president, we respect him. No, we respect the presidency, but unless the occupant of that office respects the office enough to do what is required of him, we will not respect the person. The Gambia is greater than Adama Barrow. The Gambia is greater than all these sycophants who are running around doing his bidding. I was pissed off seeing young Gambians who've done more to free our country from tyranny than Adama Barrow to be treated like criminals when those who had murdered our people confess to it are released and told to go home and enjoy their Tobaski with their families. When their families, the families of the victims are still reeling from the crimes that have been committed against their citizens. I've seen somebody talking about the GDC and all that nonsense. Let's be serious when we talk about issues. The coalition to remove Yaya Jammeh was a necessary coalition, and we'll do it all over again. Sitting here and trying to castigate people for ending the rule of Yaya Jammeh, who was raping our women, killing our men, incarcerated people, is an insult not only to Gambians but any victim of that country. So let's stop the nonsense. Ours was a fight to liberate our people. And anybody who is elected by the people to do the work of the people and have not done it will hear from us. And it does not matter whether you are Adama Barrow or Mama Kande or Halifa Sallah, Ousainou Darboe or whoever. What is greater to us is the Gambia, not any other individual or political party or organization or association. Jawara died today. I was opposed to him, like I said. But the respect that people have for him, the reason why he can live in that country and be treated like a superstar or a celebrity is because of how he treated the Gambian people. The respect that he showed the Gambian people. Through his governance, the Gambia was singled out as the champion of human rights in Africa. Was it perfect? No. Was it matched in Africa? No. And this is why we housed the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. And this is why, by an act of Gambian Parliament, we created the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies. When his story is told today, when eulogies are made about him by President Barrow or any other person, one thing that would stand out will be how much he respected fundamental rights and freedoms. And this is why I believe that it is hypocritical of Adama Barrow and his government to, on one side, talk about how Jawara respected fundamental rights and freedoms, while on the other end, using Jammeh's tactics of suppressing and oppressing the Gambian people. Because what has happened today at that courthouse is a travesty. Everything against what Jawara stood for. The same guy that they are today celebrating as the respecter of fundamental rights and freedoms. We need to open our eyes and put country first. And when we put country first, we will stand for nothing but respect for fundamental rights and freedom. And I mean unfettered respect for fundamental rights and freedom. And President Barrow, by his actions, have really demonstrated everything that is akin to a person who is so paranoid that he has become afraid of the Gambian people. And when a government is afraid of the people that puts it in power, then we have a problem. When any government becomes afraid of the same people that voted it into office, then we have a problem. And we are seeing that problem. They brag about what? Water cannons. And their only excuse is it's better than AK-47s. It's yes, we will punish our people, but we'll just not go to the extreme. That's what they say. We will punish our people if they come out to exercise a democratic right. But we just do not want to go to the extreme. And let me tell you why they do not want to go to the extreme. Because Adama Barrow and his administration, their only concern is not what Gambians say. I've come to believe that, but what the international community says. And this is why when the United States government accused them of lack of transparency, you see how they were eager to acknowledge that. If a Gambian were to say that, they would say they hate the country. They are lying. That is not the truth. So I call on all Gambians, especially those that are celebrating Jawara's legacy, to do in his interest or on his behalf, based on his legacy, to fight for fundamental rights and freedom. Nobody is calling for lawlessness in that country. No one. And nobody is interested in lawlessness. Because the same people that they are accusing of doing that, oh, the diasporans, which is nonsense. Most diasporans have their homes in the Gambia. They have their mothers, their fathers, their sisters, their brothers, and everyone else in that country. Why the hell would they want it in flames? The concern that people have is a new beginning that will not return us to anything that resembles Yaya Jammeh's ways. But picking people out from photos and charging them with ridiculous charges is not a democratic way of running a government. Sending police dressed like they're in a war zone is not the way to operate in a democratic society. And Mr. President, I know a lot of people will be advising you. You need to be tough with these people. If you leave these young people, they will destroy this country. I've heard you say that about destroying the country. They do not love you. They do not care about your success, those people. They just want to tell you what you want to hear. They would lie to you. They would act like they love you more than anybody else. When all they're interested in, I would say it again, and I've been saying it now for 3 years, is their access to you. Your best legacy is the unfettered respect for fundamental rights and freedom. Nothing will happen to you, Mr. President, if you respect the rights of the people. But everything will go wrong if you try to oppress the Gambian people, because the days of oppression, the days of subjugation are over. You may try, but you will fail. You will fail miserably. Because when we voted Yaya Jammeh out, after a protracted struggle of 22 years, with it was what? The voting out of any violation of rights. We will never sit and allow anybody, whether it is you, Mr. President, or anybody who succeeds you, to abrogate our rights. You may succeed here and there, but the era of Gambians being subjugated is over. And the sooner you know that, the better for us. The sooner you accept that, the better for you. Anything less, I am telling you, would be a waste of your time, and you will end up having a very tainted legacy. The world is watching. But the days of us needing the international community to help us are over. We will fight our own fight. Because we love the Gambia, just like any other Gambian. And like Dr. King said, true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. You hear that? The true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. So if you want peace, make sure there is unfettered justice. If you want to have a good legacy, if you want to be remembered like Jawara is being remembered today, I have had my problems with Jawara. I'm not going to go through that today. There'll be a day for it. We have said some very crazy things to him at a rally, the last of which was his last rally ever held in that country in 1992 at the Serakunda West Stadium. It was the rally for all the KMC candidates, Bakau, Serakunda West, and Serakunda East. And what I said to him, which was not nice, was said in the middle of a lot of soldiers who were there. I was able to meet him later, and he was able to earn my respect because of the dignified way that he had handled himself and reflecting on some of the things that he had done for that country. So President Barrow, for your own interest and your own legacy, which I think now you focus on because you talk about legacy, rounding up these young people, young men, on trumped-up charges and sending them to mile 2 when murderers who confess to killing and dismembering those that they killed are walking in the streets of Banjul today. Free. And young men who, based on circumstantial evidence which cannot stand in any court of law unless you have a crazy lawyer, are now going to languish at the horrible Mile 2 prisons. When the Malik Jatas of the world, your new heroes and your new friends, are roaming the streets of the Gambia. You think about that, Mr. President. When Jawara is late before the National Assembly, and you are to give him a eulogy, I hope when you mention human rights, you would also understand that you are not living by that same principle. Yes, people will say that it had nothing to do with him. He may not even know what he does, but hey, he's the leader of that country. He picks and chooses who serves him as Interior Minister or IGP. Here we are today. These young men, they said they had a problem with what's the name of that outfit they call, that criminal outfit, the anti-crime unit. And most people will tell you, oh, we need anti-crime unit. Nobody said that we do not need any police outfit. Security is important in that country. But if the security is being manned by somebody who has no business respecting rights, or in fact running any semblance of security outfit, then you have a problem. Gorgin Boop, whose name is front and center in the April 2000 report, today is head of one of the most sensitive security outfits in that country, and that is the anti-crime unit. And we still have the same issues, the same nonsense that Gambia used to do with the NIA, where they will plant people to disguise themselves, whether as journalists and others, happening. We are aware of that. There is an NIA agent. I have introduced myself to him at a public hearing where he goes every day acting like a journalist, and he'll be outed. It still happens. I have alerted the GPU about the guy and giving them the identity of the guy. So it's the same old nonsense. But the sad thing that we've had in our country and continue to have is that we've been employing people who are loyal to the president and not to the state. And I said the president, not the presidency, but their loyalty is not to the state, but the president, the guy who appointed them, because they are so eager to stay on to their jobs for how long it takes because they don't want to be fired. But us as citizens of that country, our loyalty must always lie with the state, the Gambia. Because at the end of the day, the president's term or rule will come to an end. The state will always remain. Jawara left, Gambia is there. Jammeh left, Gambia is there. Barrow would leave, Gambia will be there. So I said I was just going to come real quick because I was so mad. I think if I kept quiet, I was going to bust and kill myself. When I saw young people being paraded as criminals based on circumstantial evidence, while the real killers, people who killed our people, are freed in our streets, roaming around the streets, as if they have done us a favor. After they killed us, their favor was they came and confessed to their crimes. That was enough to let them go. Let them go so that others would come and tell us the truth. And then you turn around and then put young men in jail. So as they speak about Jawara and his legacy, let's call them out for their hypocrisy. Because you cannot be talking about how great Jawara was, how much he respected fundamental rights and freedoms, and turn around and start violating those very rights. With that, Sir Dawda, rest in peace. You've done your part at a very difficult time for our country. A grateful nation is thankful for everything that you've done. We may not have agreed every time, but one thing that nobody can take away from you is the dignified way that you ran that country and how hard you tried in respecting fundamental rights and freedoms. And for that, we thank you very much. And rest. Take your final rest as we mourn you, hoping that the democracy, the liberty, the human rights that you wanted for us, that we will not only match it, but we will exceed it. Where the Gambia would one day be a signing country amongst a constellation of nations, where democracy will reign supreme, fundamental human rights will reign supreme, and yes, Gambia would become the true human rights capital of the world, where our leaders would respect unfettered human and constitutional right. With that, let's have a wonderful night and let's continue our struggle until we finally realize a Gambia of liberty, dignity, and prosperity. With that, thank you guys so very much.